Hi, I'm Jan. Welcome to another soldering video. Today we're going to be making this piece. For this project you're going to need 5 18mm settings, 5 18mm Rivolis, 2 8mm jump rings, 1 13mm fold over clasp, and about 43.5 inches of 16SS rhinestone chain. On the rhinestone chain you're going to need 4 pieces that are about 6.5 inches long. You're going to need 5 pieces that are about 3 inches long, and then 2 pieces that are 1.25 inches. And on this is going to be the length of the bracelet. Whenever I make a bracelet, I actually make the bracelet itself the actual size of my wrist, and then the play in it is going to be due to the width or length of the clasp. So this will be exactly the wrist size, and then you'll have a little extra with the clasp. It probably adds about 1/2 inch with the clasp, maybe a little bit more. I'll go ahead and get started. On doing a piece like this, I go ahead and make my framed rhinestone pieces first, like this one right here. I'm going to be doing 5 of these. So I just put my rhinestone down, push it down into the Play-Doh a little bit. I want to cover most of the stone, and then just lay the rhinestone chain around it. And you want it as close to the setting as possible, and you want the stones as close as possible as well. And on a stone or setting this size, 16SS is just about as large as you can go to get it to curve completely around the stone, or around the larger stone. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start soldering that piece. I want to make sure it's level. When I start heating it up, I will put the heat on the chain and the settings, and I touch the setting, for the large setting first, and that way I can see how hot it is. And you're going to be soldering every joint of the rhinestone chain, because you need to make the rhinestone chain stiff when you're framing the stone. And about 4 spots I will join the rhinestone chain to the setting. Okay, once I've framed my rhinestone pieces, I want to check them and make sure that they are solid. And if they are solid, I can go ahead and begin laying down my rhinestone chain. I need 2 pieces at the top and 2 pieces at the bottom. And you want them to be fairly straight. So a lot of times I'll just set a ruler up there. And these, the second piece, you're going to line it up with the first piece. You want all of the chain to touch. just pushing them down into the clay just a little bit. And I want the rhinestone chain, I want each link to be lined up together. Okay, once I've laid my rhinestone chain down, pick up my ruler, and then I will begin laying down my rhinestones. Okay, since I measured 6.5 inches on the rhinestone chain, and that gives me 30 stones, I need to find the center portion of that. Which means I need to line up 2 stones from this piece with the rhinestone chain. And then I'm going to lay out the rest of them the same way. I just want to evenly disperse all of the frame settings. Okay, I have everything laid in place, and you'll notice the rhinestone chain at the top and bottom, these pieces are stretched out. You can see the gaps. You see the gaps right here? Okay. And obviously the framed pieces are solid and they're close together. Also in your sides, you're going to want to solder all of this to make this stiff, so these pieces are close together. See the difference between these two? Okay. This piece, these rhinestone chains, these are going to have to move. They're going to have to wrap around your wrist, or the bracelet's going to have to wrap around your wrist. So these are just going to be tacked. And the place I'm going to tack, where once I solder this together, I will also attach the chain. So I'll be tacking this rhinestone chain on the length of it. I will be tacking it here to make this line a solid line. I will be tacking it to these round pieces and then tacking it here. Tack it here and then here, here and here, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and begin that. I've tacked these pieces to this rhinestone chain, and I've made this piece solid. We're just doing a layer of solder all the way down the edge. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the bottom. What I'm going to do is just a simple jump ring clasp with a fold over. And when I attach the jump rings, I attach the open end to basically to the center of where the bracelet's going to be. Sometimes I may do two, but this one's not too terribly wide. So I'm just going to do a simple jump ring, and instead of using a third hand, I'm just going to use a little bit of Play-Doh to raise that area so I can get the jump ring pretty much centered on the rhinestone chain. Not centered this way, but centered between the thickness of the chain. That appears to be centered there. So I do the same thing on this side. Clasp. I don't want to push it down too far into the clay, because if I do, then it's not going to want to heat up. So go ahead and attach those. I have the jump rings attached, and I have the piece cleaned off, with the exception of some paper towel stuck to it. Now I'm going to attach a clasp, and I'm just doing a simple fold over clasp. Fold over clasps are my favorite. They seem to be one of the sturdiest clasps, and they're easy to attach, and they're also very easy to put. It helps put it on your wrist. They're just easy to use. So on a fold over clasp, they look like this when they're open. You just take this little rounded end and you put it on the jump ring and turn it around, and you just clamp down to where it is attached to the jump ring. And then we're going to fold it and test it to see if it's tight enough. It still works well. If your fold over clasp is too tight or too loose, you can just barely touch this little lip right here. You see this? There you go. You can just barely touch this thing. You'll bend in slightly to make it tighter, and then bend it up to loosen it. But the way it is right now, it is perfect. And this will be the closure around the wrist. And that is it for this soldering video. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.